Welcome to the Pigskin Party Podcast, the only podcast that combines real NFL analysis with a splash of pop culture and a dash of the random. Let's get this Pigskin Party started with your hosts, Brian McFadden and Will Southard.
Welcome, everybody, to the PPP. My name is Brian. Please, as always, make sure to subscribe, rate, and review wherever you're listening or watching. And don't forget to tell a friend, because that is how we grow this Pigskin Party. Joining me, as always, to break down the NFL news, and there is always NFL news, almost assuredly to offend at least one of our guests and sprinkle in occasional comments, and sporting a ghastly ugly t-shirt, but I'll let him explain it.
Let's go.
Will Southern.
Let's go. What's up, man?
How you doing, dude?
I'm doing good, buddy. You know what I scored this past weekend?
Tell me.
Or this week, I guess? I got 12 tickets for my company to go see the Bucks and the Bills down in Tampa on
From the
December
company?
12th.
Oh, so you didn't have to pay?
No, so the owner of this company, so I moved down here, a new company, whatever, and I was like, hey, you know what would be bad? Because we have like 2 people from Buffalo that work on our sales team. So I was like, you know what would be awesome? I have never seen Brady live. I've never seen AB live. Never seen Gronk live. I was like, my one opportunity, how about we all, as a whole company or sales team, go to the Bucks-Bills game in Tampa? And the owner of my company was like, buy 12 tickets. I got the rooms and food. Let's do this. And I was like,
nice.
All right, we're doing it. So I'm feeling pretty good. Hopefully Antonio won't be in court. Tom will be in an ice tub because he's 57 years old and still playing football. And Gronk won't be retired. Hopefully those things will be true.
So your T-shirt, for those that are not watching, can you describe the disgustingness that is?
Yeah, it just says "Let's go" with a motivational face. Face.
We'll keep it as motivational face. We don't have to mention who that is, right? Did you already own that? Or?
Did I already own it? Not before I purchased it.
I meant, like, did you buy it just for today, or did you like?
I've worn it on the show before, Brian. What is your problem?
Yeah, I don't pay attention to what you wear, man.
Jeez,
except the sleeveless
man.
shirts and the hats.
Let's introduce our guest.
Yes,
we're obviously
let's go ahead
more
and do that.
Self-aware.
Let's go ahead and bring in our guest. We have an extra special show today. First is a guy I've been so eager to get on. I'm so excited to have him on. Ty Dunne, who is the founder of Go Long, which is an independent NFL newsletter. Used to work for Bleacher Report, also covered the Packers. So you know we're going to talk about some Rodgers stuff tonight, as well as the Bills. Also has his own podcast, of which I am a regular subscriber and listener, the Go Long with Dunne and Manos. Ty Dunne, how's it going, dude?
Brian, it is a pleasure to be here, man. Thanks so much for having me on. I mean, you're a Go Long OG, so I don't take that lightly. You were there from the start.
Yeah.
Listening to the pod, getting on the happy hours, reading all our stuff. I can't thank you enough for what you've done, bringing readers and listeners to what I'm trying to build over there. So it's great to be here, and yeah, man, let's get after it. Anytime you need me, I'm always down.
That's awesome. And
when I went to log onto this show, When I went to log onto this show, I saw that I had a new follower, and it had a blue check mark beside it, and I was like, well, that's a mistake. I was like, who the hell is that guy? And I was like, oh, that's our guest. All right. Well, I'll be damned.
Man. I wish I could remove the check mark, because I like making fun of like the blue check mark brigade.
You can't do that anymore.
Part of that.
You get visibility. Like, what you say carries weight. Are you serious? You could tweet The Rock, and he would be like, I need to pay attention. That's also running. We also mention The Rock every single week.
Yeah, Anthony, you're supposed to have a sound drop for that. We mentioned The Rock. Come on your game. No, that's the GOAT.
What is wrong with you? That's the Tom Brady one.
That's the Tom Brady sound. Apparently, The Rock is the GOAT too for a different reason. But yeah, Ty, I don't even remember how I came across Go Long at first. I think it was like a Twitter recommendation. I'm like, what is this? Oh, this is awesome. Like, I subscribed right away, and we started emailing. So it is my pleasure that the happy hours alone are worth it, but the writing is fantastic. As someone who, we started this podcast in November, so I'm, amateur in NFL media, but to find somebody who's trying to go out there and do an independent, I'm inspired. So this will not be the last time we have you on. Let's go ahead and bring in our second guest. So we do have 2 guests tonight. Cameron Cavilee, if I pronounced your name wrong, I apologize, who is the co-host of the Absurditee Podcast, which is an awesome name, and a Rams fan. Cameron, how you feeling, man?
I am doing good. You have pronounced it right. Very rare that anyone pronounces my last name correct. I will apologize. I live about 50 feet away from a train track, so there's a train coming.
See, if you hadn't, we could have played that off like, oh, that's a sound drop by Anthony, and now you've given up the game. So now we have to actually admit, no, all good. So and now I can't.
What are you
was that
doing,
a sound
Anthony?
drop?
Sound bites are supposed to be like 1 second. That was like 46 minutes of a train sound. Come on, Brian. What are you paying him for anyway? Like, what are we doing?
We're gonna talk about Anthony, but we're gonna switch the subject right before we get into the news. I didn't put this in the show notes, but Anthony has a story that happened over the weekend. Anthony, if you want to come in, I'll just let you tell it briefly because I don't know if I can do it justice, but it's worth telling. It's worth repeating before we get started on this thing.
All right, sure. So the other night, it was, I have to remember now, Friday night, I went out and I was having some drinks with a friend, my brother's coworker actually. And we drank a little bit too much we went to this place called the Blue Room. It was the second bar we went to. And so around like an hour and a half before we left, I started drinking water. I'm like, okay, I got stuff to do tomorrow. Like, I'm not going to get into any, shit tonight. And so they did. They drank too much whiskey, and then he decided to mix whiskey and beer. I'm like, oh, that's not going to be good, right? About an hour later, we were walking to my other friend's car, who actually was going to take us to her spot. And so we're walking out of nowhere. He turns me around and he just punches me right square in the nose. Out of nowhere. And I'm like, I'm like, I thought he was messing around, right? I'm like, wait, what'd you hit me for? And then I saw the blood coming. I'm like, oh, he really hit me. Like, whoa. And I'm like, okay, so this dude just hit me. I'm like, okay, so what was that for? And all of a sudden I see him hit Tyler, my brother Tyler. And so Tyler hits the ground. And I'm like, okay, this dude's like messed up right now. And so I picked Tyler up and I said, hey man, we gotta get out of here. Let's just go. And then I was talking, and he punches like a bitch, by the way. I'm like, if you're going to hit me, at least break my nose. Like, my nose is fine. Like,
nice. Way to play. That's your Detroit tough guy background right there.
Is there more to the story?
No,
not
the reason
really.
I found out. So I got a text.
That was the whole story? You just went out and got punched in the face? Like, that's
it.
So here's how I know about the story. So normally we drop the video for the Flavor of the Week episode, the bonus episode on Saturday. So I get a text, or I had a text when I woke up at like 4 in the morning. He must have texted at 4 in the morning. We're both on the West Coast. And he's like, sorry, the video's going to be late. Me and my brother got beat up. That was it. That's all it said. I was like, wait, what? So, yeah. Come to find out, he got sucker punched. His brother got sucker punched. And it doesn't have anything to do with him being a Lions fan. So that is how we're going to segue into the NFL.
That I don't know. It could.
It might have. Did you have Lions gear? Did you have like a Stafford Lions jersey? Okay.
Investigation? I mean, I'd kind of want to know why he just got, jacked up for no reason.
He was blackout, like clearly. Because, 2 seconds ago, we were just hanging out, like having a good time.
You bought him drinks, right? Did you buy him a bunch of
drinks?
I
did. I bought him $50 worth of beer. And this is what I get.
Was he a lot bigger than you?
Not really. Well, he's bigger, but like almost just a little bit taller than me.
Dude, my 5-year-old, dude, she goes to jiu-jitsu. I can get you in her class, bro. You can learn some techniques.
No,
you don't want to fire back? Like, you don't want to...
The thing is, he was blackout drunk. I wasn't going to hit a drunk guy. I was sober.
If it's self-defense, that's a little
right.
different.
But, he hit me. It didn't really hurt that bad. I'm like, okay, just, don't hit me again.
Right. You bought his drinks. He deserves it. At that point,
right?
That's what I'm saying. That's what he gets for buying drinks.
Take advantage of him. That kind of I get it.
But I look at my brother and I said, "Hey, man, we got a lot going right now." And
you realize that
mess that up,
your social life is the Lions of the NFL. Like, they just get sucker punched in the face.
That's the
most we're sorry, we won't do it again.
That was actually the first time that I went out in a long time.
So here's how we're going to segue: Lions, Stafford, Rams deep dive. Okay, pulling it back into the NFL. I'm glad that I don't even know what that was, but it sounded cool. Anthony's going to be playing around with the sounds tonight. But yeah, so as we mentioned, Cameron is indeed a Rams fan, and we are going to continue our weekly team deep dive series with the Rams, but we are going to do that on the Flavor of the Week. So like we did on the Cowboys a couple weeks back, our deep dive will not be on this main episode, but on the Flavor of the Week. And that's because we have Ty on, and we want to take every minute that he has that he's graciously given to us to talk about some cool NFL stuff. So there is some news first.
Cameron has that look on his face like, this show is about football, right?
Hey, he hosts a podcast called Absurditee. I think he's okay with us.
If you try to get us on a certain track, it's impossible. We don't stay on track on anything.
Fair
I
enough.
have listened to a number of episodes of the Absurditee Podcast, and it's really easy for them to go off on that train track. So
Yes.
we're all on the same page here. All right, so let's go ahead. We're jumping into a little bit of news. First, on the former players trying to make a comeback in the NFL as tight ends segment, because apparently this is going to be a reoccurring thing. So former wide receiver Kelvin Benjamin signed with the Giants as a tight end. So I guess he was inspired by Tebow. I don't know what really started this. So he was a former first-round pick, and he hasn't played since 2018. So apparently this is a thing. Ty, I'd love to get your thoughts on this first. I believe Benjamin played in Buffalo for a hot second. What do you make of this?
He was on the roster.
Yeah, he was on the roster. I don't think he did much there.
It's pretty wild. I mean, Brandon Beane, the general manager, rightfully so, is getting a ton of credit for, getting Stephon Diggs. And remember, when that trade goes down, everybody's pretty skeptical. The most inaccurate quarterback in the NFL was Josh Allen. Stephon Diggs was disgruntled and pissed off and wanted out of Minnesota in the worst possible way. It seemed like a recipe for disaster. It could have been, and obviously it was a perfect fit. He changed everything in Buffalo. He was the leader on and off the field, and they were a game away from the Super Bowl. But it all started with Kelvin Benjamin. Like, Beane made the big trade for Kelvin Benjamin mid-season, year one with McDermott in, 2017. And they were trying to rebuild. They were trying to, they thought that season was going to be a wash, and all of a sudden they're in the playoff hunt. They do the big trade for Kelvin Benjamin. They want him to be the number one long-term, and he was terrible. He was out of shape. Some reports suggested that he was kind of lazy. Just never really worked out. Never panned out. And the receiving core was dreadful. I mean, Kelvin Benjamin, Deontay Thompson, Zay Jones. I mean, Tyrod Taylor. Build a statue for the guy for getting that team to the playoffs and ending the drought. But yeah, he was there for a hot minute, and he wasn't very good, and I'm shocked that he's back in the NFL. I don't know how long it's going to last, but the fact that he's even getting a look, I guess you got to tip your cap to him, because he clearly got himself into shape some way, somehow. Otherwise, the NFL isn't even going to consider the guy, I would think.
What you don't know is he's actually going to play this year and then come back in 2 years as a lineman for the Bengals.
It's a stepping stone.
He's going to play a right tackle for the Bengals.
A little Jason Peters transition. There you
That's
go.
right.
I like it.
So he has talent. I mean, he was a first-round pick. He had, I believe, right at 1,000 yards and 9 touchdowns his rookie year, and then he got injured, and it's been bad since. But my question is this a new thing where these players, they're out of the league for 3 years or 17 years in Tebow's case?
No,
they
dude,
come back.
Here's the thing, right? I mean, he's got hands, right? I mean, he presumably he's got hands, right? Like this to me makes a little more sense than Tebow. Because Tebow's skill set was nothing of a tight end at all. I don't
Other
see
than
him
being
getting
a little bulky, yeah.
Yeah, right, exactly. Running like a freight train. But I've never known Tebow to have hands. I don't know him to get separation over the middle of the field. You know what I mean? And people
Or
are going
run
to
routes, for that matter.
People are going to take his head off for sure. I mean, I'm sorry, dude. That's going to happen to you because of just who you are and what you did. But Kelvin Benjamin, I mean, are you going to be mad at a chunky ass Kelvin Benjamin running a seam route? No, you're just gonna laugh, and then he's gonna be open, right? So I don't know. I mean, for the Giants are trying to load up weapons. You know what I mean? And behind Evan Ingram, I mean,
who never finishes a season.
It's pretty thin, right? Exactly. So I don't hate it. I mean, the Kadarius Toney pick I wasn't a huge fan of either, but they got to do something with Danny Dimes, right? Danny Dimes has either got to go up or he's got to go down. You know what I mean? He can't stay in this weird level of he should be good but he's not mediocrity. So they need to figure that out. And then, Saquon being there too. But I don't hate the Kelvin Benjamin thing. I mean, what's the worst that's going to happen for the Giants?
He could be a complete slob like he was in Buffalo and just flame out, and this will be
biscuits are good if you want to be a blocking tight end.
That's true. He's just going to keep bulking up until that's Will's prediction. He'll be a lineman in Cincinnati.
Right tackle.
Right tackle specific. Okay, good to know. All right, so another bit of news that dropped today. So defensive end Ryan Kerrigan, formerly of the Washington football team, who was actually their all-time sack leader, signed with a rival, Philadelphia Eagles. So I know, Ty, that you get a lot of Eagles info because Jim worked in Philadelphia and knows Howie Roseman, all that. What's your take on this? Does it seem like a Roseman move? He likes the building from the line? Yeah.
He just kind of shoots from the hip and pisses in the wind, as Jerry Jeff Walker saying so eloquently. I don't know what the plan is in Philadelphia. Like, I guess you give Howie Roseman credit for getting something for Carson Wentz, a quarterback who clearly didn't want to be there. But year to year, plan to plan, coach to coach, I don't know I really don't know what the vision is in Philadelphia. And I guess they're rebuilding, but you're bringing in the all-time sack leader for Washington. I just don't see ending well. Like I mean, that Super Bowl is looking more and more like an aberration and just kind of catching lightning in a bottle. And like I don't think that Philadelphia's on the right track. And this is nothing against Ryan Kerrigan. I mean, he's probably one of the more underrated players of this era, really. When I saw that today too, that he's Washington's all-time sacks leader. I was like, what? That can't be right. Like that's crazy.
I didn't know that. I learned that on Twitter today. So
it's nuts. Like he's been that good. But it's a typical Howie Roseman. He's probably catching him at the wrong point of his career, and he's probably going to have to play a bigger role than he should at this point in his career. And I mean, in that division, give me Washington and give me Dimes. I'm dropping the Danny. Just call him Dimes. Out there in
just
New York.
Dimes. Yeah.
I think those are the team. I mean, I don't even like Dallas. I think Dallas is, they got all the bells and whistles, but I mean, on the lines they're pretty weak. Their defense it's pretty trash. I don't know if the draft is really going to fix that defense. I kind of love what Washington and New York are doing.
Yeah, I definitely. We've been fans of what Washington have been doing since last season. Cameron, what are your thoughts on this? A rival signing not just any player, but a player who actually leads a franchise in sacks and bringing him in the same division.
I mean, I agree. Like, not knowing exactly what part of the career he's in, like he could be on the downhill slide. We don't know.
He's a 10-year vet, so I believe I don't think he started last year. He came in pass rush situations. I think he had 5.5 sacks, something like that, which is not nothing, but certainly not, top end production. But what more of the rival angle? Like, how would you feel if Aaron Donald, 5 years from now, went to play for the Niners? Or
don't
the Hawks,
say that. Don't say that to me.
But that's what I mean. Like,
yeah, no, I get it. Yeah, it's unprecedented for sure. But there's been some crazy moves in the NFL lately, so
that's true. You never know. And Howie Roseman seems to be.
Is there a team more confusing than the Eagles? It's like when you look at the Eagles, you're like,
take out the Texans, but they're on a class of their own.
Yeah, but they're not confusing. They just suck. Like it's pretty obvious, right?
I was
like
about
what's
to give
going on.
Jets as an example, but yeah, they just suck too. So
the Jets,
yeah.
No, but
the
Jets
got
got they got
a
a plan, man. They got a plan.
Joe Douglas has a plan.
The Eagles, though, you're like, I don't know. Like, do they believe in Hurts? Do they not? I mean, they got Smith. Were they happy about that? I mean, you never know, like, what the Eagles are really doing. It's like, I feel like they're, they got their head coach that just signed this year. It's like, I guess they have a team.
Sirianni, who has never called plays.
But now he's a head coach. That's what I'm saying.
Wait, Ty, what's your thought on, I think you've said that on the podcast, but thoughts of Roseman hiring Nick Sirianni? Never called a play, but now he's a head coach of an NFL team.
Well, we're from the same section of high school football. I'll say that. He grew up, I want to say, about 40 minutes from where I did, in Jamestown, New York. I was in Salamanca, Ellicottville. So, I gotta give him a shot, right? If you're coming from Section 6 New York State high school football, I think he got something going good for you. I don't know. I know that he, by all accounts, works his ass off. And, I mean, you don't just trip into that job. I mean, I think he earned it. I think he deserves a shot. I just don't know management-wise if he's going to be set up for success or failure. I mean, I just thought that was a great point. The Willies, I see plural down there. You go Willie or Willies?
It's just Will, but who knows? He likes he does his own thing. We don't try to rein him in because we can't.
But that was a great point. Like, just what are you as a franchise? I mean, this is another swing at wide receiver, and they just keep swinging and missing at that position. Where, I mean, God, go back. I mean, they took Whiteside over DK Metcalf, right? And they take Rager over Justin Jefferson. I think Devontae Smith is a great player. I mean, he was dominating. He's the Heisman Trophy winner. He's unbelievable. You know, he's also $150, $160, and that offense with that quarterback. I mean, I don't know. I guess I'm pretty skeptical that it's going to work out the third swing at the bat.
It's like an athletic Anthony running routes for the Eagles.
Poor Anthony got beat up this weekend. And you just got to throw him in on the. Come on, we're going to give Anthony a pass this time.
Just get punched in the nose.
That's right. He's just gonna get punched right in the nose.
I still don't know why he didn't fight back, Anthony. I don't know.
He's a good guy. He's
just too nice of a guy.
He's just too nice. But yeah, so here's a question. You know, growing up at least in the same area of Nick Sirianni, how was the high school competitiveness for rock paper scissors in your region? That's what I want to.
You know what's sad is, like, when he told that story, like, just in the media, like, you do want, like, real stuff, like substance, like what is really going on behind the curtain. Like that's what we're trying to do with stories. Like, what, don't give me the cliches, don't give me the BS and we just try to find good football players in that kind of setting. Like, so when he said, like, the rock paper scissors thing with prospects, I honestly didn't think anything of it. I'm like, that's kind of cool. Like, I mean, I don't think he's literally stacking his board based off rock paper scissors, but we heard something that actually happens. And then he just gets absolutely lit up for that comment. It's like, oh, man. Like, now I can see why, like, players and coaches don't ever want to tell us anything. Because if they say something that happens, they're just going to get mocked into oblivion. And it kind of sucks. I mean, that's the Twitterification of covering football, I guess. It's like the second he said that, Twitter just blows up. And
see,
I kind of
here's
felt
my
bad
thing.
for him, honestly.
If I was a head coach, I would say the dumbest shit. Just to screw with the media all the time. Right? I'd be like, I'd come in and I look at their shoes. You know what I mean? And are they the same kind of shoe? I don't like that. I don't like people that have the same kind of shoe. People would be like, what? Who is this guy?
Just mind games.
I mean? Yeah, exactly. No, it'd just be so trolly that nobody
Players
would ever
have done
take it
that,
seriously.
by the way. Like, when I covered the Packers, I think it was like 2011 or 2012, DJ Williams, the tight end. Really good at Arkansas in college. Didn't have a long NFL career, but just such a fun dude to talk to in the locker room. Just gregarious and had stories and personality. I think it was like day one of OTAs or day one of training camp. One of the first times he talked into a season. And he told everybody that the training he did all off season was like wrestle cows. Like cow tipping, cow tying.
I remember that.
You can look it up. I'm sure the stories are out there. It was something with like tipping cows and everybody believed him and wrote stories on it. And I think a week later, I went up to him like, did you just make all that up? And he kind of winked and said, no, that's what I really did. That's what I did all off. Like, he clearly just made it up. Like, to your point, more guys should do that and just see if all the idiots in the media will run
That's
with
why
it.
I love, dude. Marshawn Lynch, he's always been kind of weird. But whenever he, like, did his thing with, like, the I'm just here so I don't get fined, I kind of hated it. I was like, man, what an entitled, dick, whatever. But after a while, I was like, that guy's a genius. I love that guy. He is so unapologetically authentic.
He's himself.
Like, how do you not love Marshawn Lynch, man? I don't know.
Was Jim there at all with Marshawn in Buffalo, or was that before him? Do you know?
That would have been before him.
Right before him,
Right.
yeah.
Yep. He had the hit and run incident on Chippewa Street downtown, and that was it. I mean, I don't think he really wanted to be there, and management didn't really want to give him a second chance. And God, they traded him for a third-round pick, something like that. Just terrible trade.
But everything I've read is
fingerprints
that
were on that.
Yeah, okay. But everything I've read is that Marshawn has been that way since college. I mean, this isn't some persona he developed later. That is really him, and I agree with you guys. It would be awesome.
He his own drinks to the inside bars. It was like well known in Chippewa Street.
He would love. He frequented Applebee's. Remember, there was that news story on him where it was like rookie running back Marshawn Lynch.
Kenny Mayne did that. That was Kenny Mayne.
The whole town, all it has is a Dave and Buster's and an Applebee's, and he would go to Applebee's like twice a day. You remember that? And he's like, I just love the ambiance.
It's fine dining, right?
I'm like, whatever, dude.
All right, let's keep it moving. So I proudly am now fully vaccinated. Got my second vaccine about a week, so I guess I got another week. But on that note, so the NFL has now announced in an effort to encourage players and staff to get fully vaccinated that those who are will not be required to wear a mask at team facilities. So this is following the CDC guide. I don't even... Can you explain the drop? Because I have no idea what was just said.
I think it's Mortal Kombat.
Was that? Oh, but that's for the flavor of the week. We're going to talk about Mortal Kombat in the flavor of the week. So, okay, whatever that sound drop is.
It said victory.
Oh, victory. Oh, nice. Okay, cool. Yes, then yes. Okay, that is an appropriate sound drop. Thank you, Anthony. So, yeah, I just wanted to get you guys' thoughts on, is this enough to get, are there still holdouts? Ty, have you heard any players that are purposely not getting the vaccine and they're going to be forced to go through more of the mask wearing and the protocols?
You know, I haven't really talked to a ton of guys about this. I probably should, because I think that, you know, it's not going to be 100% compliance. I mean, you saw Cole Beasley, who doesn't say much, you know, in the media. He kind of spoke out, and I think that he's speaking on behalf of a lot of guys who aren't. I mean, they're not going to get vaccinated. They don't. They're principled in what they believe. They're not going to do it in the NFL. I don't think they can force players to do something that they don't want to do, or you're going to welcome a whole, you know, scroll of issues. I mean, it could be a lot, but they can incentivize guys to get it, and I think that's what you're seeing. They're going to do. I mean, like society. I mean, you're seeing it. I mean, here in Buffalo, I mean, breweries are giving away free drinks. I mean, I think the baseball team's giving away free tickets. It's just
Ohio's giving away $1 million lottery.
That's right. It's everywhere.
$1 million to get vaccinated.
I don't know what football. I mean, maybe teams can get kind of creative and do some pretty crazy stuff to get guys to do it. But I'm absolutely certain that there's going to be I think there's a hell of a lot more players than people think out there who will not get vaccinated for one reason or another. And it's one of those.
Cameron, you're in the Midwest, right?
Yeah, I am in Oklahoma.
What is the how does it with masks and vaccinations? How are things going over there?
I mean, I've had both my shots. I'm good to go. But Oklahoma actually lifted its entire mask mandate the end of March, I want to say.
Oh wow, months ago.
Yeah. Maybe it was the end of April. It could have been the end of April. I don't really pay attention that much to it.
Well, you're good. You're vaccinated, so yeah.
I'm not worried about it anymore.
So do you think this is a smart move by the NFL, you know, kind of giving the extra leeway and extra freedom to the players who do get vaccinated?
I mean, it's a it's a step in the right direction. But yeah, I mean, if whatever we can do to get the NFL back to normal, I'm all for, because I just want my football back to normal.
Here's the thing, right? Is like the NFL cannot have the optics of not requiring masks, right? For just in general, for like, you know, to be unsafe. Like maybe they can, and maybe that is the right move, but like just in general, like you would think that they need to have that kind of thing about them where, you know, if you're not vaccinated, like you know you need to be safe or whatever. But reality, I mean, they should probably just go away from it entirely and just say we're encouraging everybody to get, you know, vaccinated, blah blah blah. But you know, we as an organization are not going to require masks. Like, I don't know, what are all the stadiums doing? Is it individual, or do you have to? I know in Florida,
a good question.
In the Bucs, you're not going to mandate shit because we have Ron DeSantis, who
Florida does not care about anything. They're just willy nilly down there.
No, I joined a gym, believe it or not, and it was 24-hour fitness, and it was they're headquartered in California, and when I went in there, they were like, when I went in there to sign up, they were like, just so you know, it's 100% mask mandate even when you're working out. This was like a couple weeks ago, and I was like, what? And I was like, I mean, I understand a mask mandate to come in and out, but like to work out, I was like, I'm not really down with that. I'm like, I got my shots and blah blah blah, and they're like, yeah, I mean, we're a California company and blah blah blah. And then so DeSantis came out and he basically forbid that, and 24-hour Fitness's GM had to fight like a legal fight with their California brethren to say, like, we're not going to be competitive in Florida if we have to I mean, Floridians they don't give a shit, man. So it was just kind of one of those things that, but I think the NFL would be better if they just said we're just not going to do the mask thing anymore. I'm not sure if there'd be a lot of people in the NFL that would be against that.
I was down in Florida back in, I think it was October of last year, and they weren't even requiring masks there then.
Yeah,
Yep.
I mean,
It's a different world. So we got a couple more news items to get to, and we are going to actually break down the schedule. So I'm going to keep this rolling. The next bit of smooth. So the next bit of news, obviously we're going to hear from Will on this, and that is Buccaneers wide receiver Antonio Brown has been sued, and it's not the first time. This time for assault and battery. Apparently he got in an altercation with a moving truck driver back in the beginning of last year. He threw a rock at him. He threw a rock at the truck. As part of, he had a dispute about pay, and he actually forced his way into the cabin and began to physically strike the driver. This sounds right up AB's alley. So he served an 8-game suspension for multiple violations of the NFL's personal conduct policy back in the beginning of last year. Of course, we all know how that ended with him winning a Super Bowl with Brady. Will, what do you have to say about the guy whose jersey hangs behind you?
I mean, he seemed much more well behaved in the past time, right? And I mean, he's still gonna have to atone for all of the from a civil standpoint, every single thing he did. And this is more just more of that, right? I don't think though from an NFL level, leave the guy alone. He's done everything since he moved in with Tom and Scared Straight or whatever it is. He's been surprisingly, because none of us on this show anyway, gave him a chance in hell at being normal again, right? And having a career and doing all that kind of stuff. But I mean, to his credit, he largely has, So I mean, I think let the court play it out, but I don't think they should suspend him or do any kind of ridiculous things like that to him.
So you think he'll be ready to go by week 1?
I would hope.
Well, I'm sure. I know you would hope because you want the Bucs to do well. All right. So before we move on to the schedule breakdown, we cannot have Ty Dunne on without talking about the Aaron Rodgers situation. I obviously listen to your podcast. I read what you've been writing. You might be tired of it at this point, so I apologize if you are. But yeah, I just wanted to kind of get your thoughts. You did cover the Packers. You've been talking to various people in his circle. You talked to former GM Ron Wolf. So I mean, you obviously have a lot more insight than we do. So what's the latest? What are you kind of feeling with regards to Aaron Rodgers?
It's a stalemate. I mean, right now there hasn't been anything that's really changed. I know that he's been distant. The teammates that I've talked to haven't heard from him, and they want to know what's going on as well. They're talking to other teammates who are talking to other teammates, and I think Aaron Rodgers has really kept that circle really, really small. I mean, we had Jordan Love's quarterbacks coach on the happy hour at Go Long this past Friday, and he said that him and Jordan talked about it briefly, but I mean, Jordan Love doesn't know what's going on. I mean,
yeah.
So everybody's kind of waiting, and it's one of two things, right? He either wants the Packers to kind of be punished in his mind and embarrassed in his mind, and he'll just eventually show up and get the money that he wanted all along, and the joke was on us for writing all these stories and really believing that this could be it, because it sure seems like it. I mean, the people I talk to say when he's dug in, he's dug in. He's principled that way, as ludicrous as this is, really, because, well, if it's about winning, you stay with the Packers because you're not going to go to a better situation. If it's about money, they're going to pay you more than any quarterback in the league, and you have the ball literally in your court, in your hands. As long as you're a good quarterback, Jordan Love stays on the sideline, and you force Green Bay to trade Jordan Love eventually. So that tells me that he's just sick of Green Bay, sick of management, wants personnel control, wants to be a Tom Brady and just, sit right there in the meeting room and pick players and court free agents and do all that kind of stuff. So, I don't know. I still am in that camp. I still think that he is principled. He is dug in. I mean, when you're out of his life, you're out of his life. I don't see him just getting buddy-buddy with Brian Gutekunst and burying the hatchet and giving this one more run. I think that he genuinely wants out. I believe it. I could look like a fool when he sits down with Pat McAfee or one of his buddies and calls all of us, fake news. But I think it's a real thing. Like, I think he wants out. I really do. And when June 1st hits, if nothing has changed, the Packers are going to have about a month and a half, I think, to make a decision. I don't think you can let this linger into training camp, because then it's going to poison your team in so many ways. It's going to be 2008 times 100. And if I'm a player in that locker room and I hear my head coach saying, I want Aaron back in the worst way, and the GM saying, we want him back, eventually you got to stop the fawning. He's not going to come. Like, you just have to admit it, look in the mirror, and trade him. Because if anybody's weird enough and different enough to choose to just retire and host a game show, it's Aaron Rodgers. I don't think that's just a leverage play. I think it could be a real thing.
How much do you think, we've speculated on this show that seeing Tom Brady do what he did, go to a different team in a different conference and just basically have some say in who they brought on and what kind of offense they ran, certainly towards the end of the season, and then win a Super Bowl, do you think that played at all into this chain of events?
I mean, he was upset about Jake Kummerow getting cut. I mean, Jake freaking Kummerow.
Yep.
Like the 6th-string receiver in training camp. Like, a player told me that the day after that, because at a press conference and interview, like, Aaron Rodgers was singing his praises and saying how great Kummerow was and how much he wants him around, and then the next day they cut him. And apparently in the locker room, he just said, that shows how much they think about what I say around here. Like, I mean, and he didn't forget that. I mean, his agent, I believe, to Bob McGinn at The Athletic, went on the record saying how that pissed him off. Like, we don't even have to look at a leak. Like, Jake Kummerow. So if you're upset about that, and Jordy Nelson, whatever was left of him in Oakland, with John Gruden and that disaster, if you're upset about those, like, yeah, he wants personnel control, I guess, which is insane, I think, because if in that NFC Championship game they didn't lose because of Gronk, AB, and Fournette, Marquez Valdes-Scantling, their number 2, number 3 receiver, went for over 100 yards. If they lost because Rodgers was probably too dialed into Devontae Adams and wasn't trusting the supporting cast. He had Alan Lazard wide open in the end zone on a play for a touchdown. He didn't run it.
He had an opportunity. Yeah, he had an opportunity to run it in wide open. Would have been
out and threw it across his body. Like, don't blame the supporting cast. Like, that's weak. I mean, that's soft. So I guess, maybe that's what he wants. I mean, we have to speculate and put words in his mouth because he won't talk for himself.
Right.
But I guess that's what he wants. And hey, good luck to the team that brings him on as a co-GM. I just because you're really good at playing the sport doesn't make you a great GM. They're two different jobs.
Right. Yeah, and we have you put a thread on Go Long TD where you were basically asking, hey, what do you guys think the Packers should do in this situation? I put on there, and I've been very adamant from the start, especially with Houston, that Green Bay's kind of missing the boat. And that unless you have some inside information that we're not aware of and that you really do have a sense that he'll come back, that just digging your feet in for the sake of it is only going to cost your franchise more.
Signing every quarterback under the sun.
Once you bring in Blake Bortles, you're throwing in the towel.
I was literally about to say that.
There's more than that, though. It was Blake Bortles and then they started singing Blake Bortles' praises. Remember that?
Yeah.
They were like, it's not just bringing him in.
Like Rodgers, he'll take you to the conference championship game. Tomato in my book, really.
Rodgers only has one more Super Bowl than Blake Bortles. I mean, come on, let's make the argument.
That's right. Ben Kirk, right? Atlanta?
Yeah.
Got him in there. That was a great point, Brian. I thought that was. I'm still getting to people's responses in there. It was amazing, the feedback on that thread. Like,
everybody was jumping. Everybody had an opinion.
Yeah, but I loved your point. I read that last night on the Texans. If they would have, obviously that's a whole other story that would require hours to pick apart with what's going on off the field. But football-wise, clearly, they would have made out a hell of a lot better if they would have just traded him at the start of the offseason, right?
Yep.
Could have written whatever they wanted and gotten whatever they wanted. Now it's just a freaking cluster, you know what?
Egos go both ways in the sports, right? And a lot of these GMs think, like, I can fix this. You know what I mean? Like, I know the guy's mad, but, like, he's not that bad. You know what I mean? But, like, there's these
But
players.
part of it
hold
is
a lot
also
of
not
leverage.
only that he's not that mad. Part of it is like they're just digging in for principle, which I get to an extent, right? Like Ty said, that it is a different job. They can't set too many precedents where they just let the players run wild, because then they're not able to run the team the way that they're paid to do. But there comes a point where is too much principle going to actually cost you the future of your franchise more than if you just would have sucked it up and be like, you know what, I don't want this to happen, but this is the reality of the situation. Why don't we capitalize on it now instead of dragging it out only to have the same result down the road, but I can't get as much in return? So that was really my point. And Houston fell into the same category. Like, you go ahead, fine, stand on your principle. It's going to cost your team, in my opinion.
Next year, you're not going to be able to get much at all for him if you're looking to deal him. So, I mean, if you want to make one more run at a Super Bowl, good luck by all means. It doesn't seem very cost effective to me, but that's why I'm sitting here in this office in Boston, New York, and not running a team. So,
would he ever be so spiteful as to play and just play crappy on purpose? Like, is that within Rodgers' wheelhouse?
I mean, he was the MVP when he was really pissed off. But it can go the other way. Like, it could be toxic.
But he had something to prove, right? He wanted to prove that he wasn't done. Now, what if what he wants to prove is that you should have traded me? I'm just gonna throw the ball into the ground. You should have traded me. I'm not saying that'll happen, but wow, that would be insane if it did.
He took it to some extremes that last year with Mike McCarthy. He kind of went rogue and was doing his own thing and drawing up plays in the huddle. It could turn bad. I mean, it could. They have to consider it. You have to look after the collective, and I'm pro player.
Right.
Like, you read my stuff, Brian. I'm all about the player. Like,
100%.
I like the fact that they're empowered and want to do their own thing. But, like, it's case by case. I thought Russell Wilson was kind of nuts too. Like, I know he's been sacked a ton, but shit, that's a pretty good situation you got out there. Like, you could be in a worse spot than Seattle with those receivers and weapons and and freedom. I don't know. I just, with Aaron Rodgers especially, sacked 20 times last year, 13-3. He's got the freedom at the line. He can just change any play he wants. Like, he can do that within the offense. It just seems like a weird. I guess it's, like I said, I guess it's not about football. I guess it's not about money. It's something else.
Well, no doubt that we will continue to cover it until something happens. But yeah, in the meantime, all we can do is speculate. Yeah. So let's go ahead and jump in. We are going to break down the NFL schedule. So the NFL schedule was officially released last Wednesday. It's a big thing now. I don't ever remember that they there were all these leaks and then they released week 1. And I don't know if it's just the Twitter, generation, or it's because the NFL are just trying to make the season last all year, which, I mean, I'm not complaining. We have a football podcast here. But it was like a big to-do. But anyway, we've got the schedule. It is out. So I wanted to kind of go around the horn and get everybody's thoughts.
Dude,
yeah,
that's like the sound from like those 1970s VHS tapes before
does.
everybody just takes off their clothes and bumps uglies. You know what I mean? Like,
that's not the direction I was going to go. I was thinking like a 1980s sci-fi movie, and you're like, no, it's straight 70s porn.
Yeah, that took a turn I was not expecting.
Yeah,
Didn't see that coming.
Do those movies, Cameron. So do those movies. It's like, oh,
that's fair.
You've broken down. Do you need me to change your tire? Oh, look, I'm naked.
Yeah, this is a regular occurrence on this podcast. I'm just used to it at this point. All right, Will, I'll start with you since you seem to be in the mood. Anything stand out to you regarding the 2021 schedule, just at first glance?
Nah. I mean, it's
what a take.
No, I mean, I like.
We're the only podcast that were like, nah, no comments.
No, I mean, it's not that far away. I like the 17-game season. I think it's going to make for a much more interesting end of the season. I think, judging by the experience I had getting tickets, people are hungry for the NFL, man. These games are going to sell out. Like the Patriots Bucks game, it's $1,200. It's more than the Super Bowl to get into that game, which is, I think, ridiculous. But I mean, hey. So no, I mean, I don't know what you would say crazy wise, in terms of maybe some matchup stuff, but just I mean, I do agree with you that I don't remember the schedule release being like that big a deal. Like it was always like, and now the schedule's out, but
they used to release it before the draft, right? This wasn't something they're extending the NFL season. They're trying to keep eyes on the league. All right, Will, since you don't have a very strong opinion, I'll feed you something. So let's talk about primetime games. So we'll go over the teams that have the most and the teams that have the least. And maybe you still don't have an opinion, in which case, what good are you and why are you here? Okay, so the teams that have... Fair enough. All right, teams that have the most primetime games, they're all tied with 5. The Packers, which will be fascinating if they've got Blake Bortles at quarterback for 5 primetime games. The Saints no longer have Drew Brees, but still a very strong franchise. The Cowboys, naturally, they could be 0-17 and they'd still get 5 primetime games. The Seahawks, the Steelers, the Ravens, Cameron's Rams, 49ers, Chiefs, and the Super Bowl champion Bucks. Any comments on that? No? Ty.
I don't want to be a tinfoil cap guy here.
No, please put on the tinfoil.
but I will say I'm not going to sell him out. A pretty well-known former player in the Twitter sphere. We shoot each other DMs from time to time when it comes
O.J.
to
Simpson. O.J. Simpson.
George Truly. You're close.
He is
George
from Buffalo. Yeah, no.
But he sent me a DM last week that made me think, and he said, "What do you think about this? What if the NFL is forcing Aaron Rodgers to stay in Green Bay? Like, what if they were like trying to talk him into staying where he is for 2 reasons? For one, they don't want star players, like having that much power, with 3 years left on their deal, winning MVPs, just saying, man, I'm done playing here. I'm going to go play somewhere else." And like you said, the primetime games, all these primetime slots, the NFL would much prefer to have Aaron Rodgers in those primetime slots than Jordan Love or Blake Bortles.
Bortles.
That's a conspiracy that I can get behind. Roger Goodell and all these owners and everybody kind of, having that new world order kind of meeting and telling Aaron Rodgers, hey, just tell us how much. Tell us how much money you need to stay in Green Bay this year at least. I don't know. Like, I don't want to, fall down that YouTube rabbit hole, but I'd believe it. I'd believe it, gut feeling.
No, that's honestly, I can't dispute that. That's the crazy part. They just moved the schedule release to like this big event so that what they can do, they can keep the league top of mind and they can generate more revenue. They have some goal to like have $25 billion revenue over the next like 7 years or something like that. So how are you going to do that? You're going to stop. You don't want too much player empowerment, right? You want to keep power on your side. Ty, that's so crazy. It just might be true.
I think there's a lot of that stuff going on that we don't know. I mean, behind the scenes, there's we only hear a fraction of what's really going on. I mean, it's the battle that I'm trying to fight where I'm at. Like, just try to find the real stuff behind the scenes. But I mean, that would be pretty extreme. I'd believe it though. I wouldn't put it past them.
If one day we just Ty disappears, it's because
right.
they found out they got him. They got to him.
The way to fight that is to say, okay, I retire. You know what I mean? Like
right.
I mean, sure, there could be like some super secret NFL cabal, but like, I mean, I don't know, man. I mean, I think anything if they do pay him, that's the only way. It's just to say, dude, like, we're just gonna give you a lot of money. Like, how much money do you want? Like, off the record. But like, can we all agree though that like, if there's one team that you think should suck but they just don't year in and year out, like, I want the Packers to suck. Like, I want them to go away. Like, I just don't like I don't.
That's how I feel about the Patriots, so I can relate.
Really?
But
when you think about like teams that are good,
show.
When you think about like teams that are good, the Packers don't really come to like top of my mind. If I just had to like list off, they are great, but they like shouldn't be. Like, that's the thing. Whatever, Lions fan, pipe down.
Future Rams fan. Let's keep it straight. Anthony, is only a matter of time before he becomes a Rams fan. And
98% of the talent on that roster went to the Rams.
So let's talk about that. But we're gonna here's my segue. Check this out. So we're gonna talk about the Rams. We're still gonna talk about the schedule, and we're gonna keep the tinfoil hat on. So one of the stories I want to talk about is the juicy Week 1 matchups, and there's a lot. But one of them, and it's a primetime game, is Bears-Rams. So if there's a football cognoscenti that's pulling the strings, do you really think they're going to let Andy Dalton start in SoFi Stadium in Week 1 when Justin Fields is sitting right there? Like, they've got to be pressuring Matt Nagy, Ryan Pace to get like. Is that something? Could that be a thing?
I think they need to find out what their actual starter is going to be because, I mean, the Rams, they lost a little bit on defense, but they didn't lose a lot on defense. And their defense was pretty top-notch last year. So they're going to need to find out who their actual starter is going to be.
Well, when Aaron Donald takes up the entire offensive line by himself, you can kind of get away with a little bit of lackluster talent around him.
That's true.
So do we think that's a possibility? Like, could the NFL force the Bears to start Justin Fields, or is that just going too crazy? Because nobody wants to see Andy Dalton versus Stafford in the first.
I don't think it's the NFL, dude. Like, when you look at, like, conspiracies, like, look at Tyrod Taylor. I think God just doesn't want Tyrod Taylor to play. like Tyrod's like, here I am, guys, new team. I'm ready to go. I practiced all season. And they're like, I'm going to stab you in the ribs, Tyrod. I'm sorry. We really want to see Justin Herbert and what he's got. So, like.
So even God is a Justin Herbert fan, apparently.
And a Baker Mayfield fan. It's just wherever he goes, man.
And a Nathan Peterman fan.
And
and
we all, Tyler.
God and John Gruden are the only Nathan Peterman fans.
Never forget, Sean McDermott trotted Nathan Peterman out as his starting quarterback, not once, but twice.
So I forget which game it was, but the 5-interception first half game, I forget who he was playing, but I had that defense in FanDuel that week.
Chargers.
And the Chargers. I was so happy, bro. I was like, how many more can we do? Let's go for 6. Let's go for 6.
In the middle of a playoff run. I mean, they're 5-4 at the time. Like, what are you doing? Like, you should know what you have. It's
and the crazy with how much success they've had
I know
since.
they
like,
don't have
people aren't
possession of the ball.
But you're right. People don't think about that. That McDermott was the one who did that. Yeah. McDermott, who is the savior of Buffalo, who has taken the team to the AFC Championship game with Josh Allen, was purposely started Nathan Peterman in multiple games.
They draft Josh Allen, and then they start Nathan Peterman week 1 into the next season. Like, he isn't immediately released and sent away.
What's the point of a nice big Peter if you're not going to use it?
Very true.
You're
trying hard right now, Will. You are trying hard. You are inspired by that ugly Brady shirt. Okay. Well, I was going to go over the other week. You guys, we're way off the tracks here. The schedule, I think that's what we were talking about. So, let's talk about revenge games. Yeah, I know this is absurdity. We were just inspired. We have no idea what we're talking about right now. All right, let's talk about revenge games. So that's a little bit juicier. So obviously, there's the revenge game of revenge games, and Will already alluded to it. And the price is insane for just a regular season ticket. Week 4, Sunday Night Football, Tom Brady versus Bill Belichick. You should have one like the Death Star for Bill Belichick. Can you get that, Anthony? Can you have like an evil sound whenever Belichick's name gets mentioned? But yeah, so this is like a double revenge game. Who's getting the revenge? Is it Bill against Tom for leaving him? Is it Tom against Bill for treating him the way he did?
This is a media narrative. I don't think Tom no, Tom does for sure.
Tom absolutely
Bill though,
does.
I don't know.
Bill maybe not.
Bill, I don't.
Yeah,
I don't
he's
think
got an ego. He's got an ego.
You go with Death Star and we get a barking dog. Like,
that was my dog.
I was going to say, I didn't think that was the sound.
I thought it was just Anthony being bad at his job of sound bites. Got it.
Although, if you ever watched the draft last year, Bill Belichick, his dog was drafting for him, so there was a little bit of relevance there.
Yeah. I did see that. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, it's going to be a highly, highly watched game, right? I mean, the NFL is going to make bank off that game, but I'm not so sure. I mean, it's week 4. I mean, obviously it's good for Tom. Tom wants to get that, like, I've beaten all 32 NFL team thing. under
Well,
his
with
belt.
regards to Week 4, I saw a report today that the NFL schedule makers they thought long and hard about when to put this game. They wanted it before there were any major injuries. They wanted it before weather became a factor in New England. So it was not random that they put this game in Week 4.
I mean, we know what's going to happen, right?
Oh, the Bucs are going to win.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, not even close. Like,
As
they're
much
gonna
as
trot
I don't
out-
like Tom Brady, I would love to see them crush. I shouldn't have told you to. I'm going to haunt.
Ty, you don't
having
think
that
you don't
as a
think this
sound.
is going to be just a runaway beatdown?
Man, I think I think the Bucs.
Wait, hang on. Is Cam Newton going to be playing, or is Mac Jones going to be playing?
Mac
Week 4?
Jones is in by then. He's in by then.
You think that early, Week 4?
I don't know. These guys, they don't sit and wait. Especially, I mean, Cam Newton. I guess he was okay as a runner, but he threw 8 touchdowns last year. Like, he was not good at throwing the football, which is important at that position.
Kind of important at a quarterback.
I mean, I don't even know.
Maybe he'll come back as a tight end.
Right.
Oh,
Yeah.
I can see that. Cam's the next
There you
one.
go. I
Or
think this game
fullback.
means a lot more for Belichick, right? Like, it means more for the. I mean, Tom Brady and the Bucs. They don't need to. They just won the Super Bowl. Like, they don't have to prove anything. If a regular season game means anything at all,
It means a lot
Belichick
to
is
Tom,
gonna put
though.
Everything into it to win.
Tom won't say it, but it means a lot to Tom.
Do you think so?
Yeah, yeah.
I agree.
Beating the team that he could never like come out of the shell of. I mean, the Super Bowl was that, but like that whole like legacy, beating all 32 team thing is. I mean, that's really high in his mind. He wants that one pretty bad.
There's also a chance if he averages, I believe it's 289 yards passing a game, he has a chance to pass Drew Brees for the most passing yards all time in Foxborough in Week 4. So this was definitely not a coincidental picking Week 4. So many narratives. Let's go through some of the other revenge games. If you guys have a comment, feel free. Otherwise,
I mean, the
keep on
next
rolling.
one's not even. It's going to be a beatdown. Like,
Of
that's
course
not
it will.
even.
Now, just because it's a revenge game doesn't mean it'll be a good game. And there's other games that aren't revenge games. Like I think the
How many
Bears
wins
play
did the
Bengals.
Texans get this year? Like, let's
0.
put it this way: would you put your money on 0 or not 0? You have to go with not 0, right? Like the
I guess
odds are
historic-
not 0.
Especially with 17 games, the odds of them losing 17 games is pretty astronomical. But if any team could do it, it's the Texans this year. So the game that Will is alluding to that I haven't mentioned yet in the show notes is Arizona Cardinals, Deandre Hopkins, and J.J. Watt versus the Texans. That's in Week 7. I mean, that speaks itself. DeAndre Hopkins was traded away by Bill O'Brien, and J.J. Watt, who was such a figurehead for the city of Houston, leaving willingly because of how much of a mess that franchise was and still is. The Darnold Bowl. So Sam Darnold gets to go against the Jets, Carolina against New York in Week 1. Who do we think wins that? Zach Wilson, his first start. I might give the edge to Carolina.
Yeah. Yeah.
I kind of like Zach Wilson. I know he, doing some Disney TV shows on the side and isn't exactly.
Yeah, but we're talking about.
I'm not
we're
sure he's
talking
not
about
like
QB
related
battles.
to Zach Efron. He might be related to Zach Efron.
We're not talking about the QB battles, though. We're talking about the Panthers versus the Jets. And you have Darnold with DJ Moore and all of that offense with Christian McCaffrey
yeah.
against a first-year Zach Wilson and Elijah Moore and all everybody the Jets trot out. I mean, you got to give it to the Panthers.
Yeah, agreed.
Plus, Darnold's going to be hungry. Wilson's going to be like, I can't look like an idiot in my first game.
Yeah. It's interesting. I mean, the Jets really could have just shopped that number 2 pick, and I mean, I would have loved to have known what they could have got for that pick and just stick with Darnold. You know what I mean? Like there is something to the Darnold versus Wilson revenge game factor, because it would have been easy for the Jets to say, we got our guy. Like, well, and make teams believe they like everybody, they're going to draft anybody and take whatever you could get. I mean, look what the 49ers got for the 3rd pick. So, and they had, I mean, Darnold is I think he's a good quarterback. It just was on a crap team.
If they were both coming out at the same time, same age, would you take Wilson or Darnold?
I'm a Wilson.
Darnold
I would
was
take
highly
Darnold.
rated.
But
Yeah.
I would take Darnold.
Yeah.
I mean,
The fact that Darnold played better competition at USC might give him a little bit of edge, although Wilson's a little bit more mobile. I don't know. It would have been interesting. But it's funny because everyone just trashes Darnold now, but at the time he was a very highly rated recruit.
Well, plus the Pats secondary had him, quote, seeing ghosts.
Yeah.
And there's no recovering that from that.
He needed a fresh start. So,
you know what I'm talking about. They had that dude screwed up that game. He was confused.
Well, Belichick, rookie quarterbacks, that whole cliche. But
Stephon Gilmore.
So let's go through some of the other revenge games. So we're going to call this one the Anthony Bowl. So in Week 7, and Anthony, I know you're going to go to that game because it's in L.A., and you live in L.A., Jared Goff versus Matt Stafford. So Jared Goff.
I bought my tickets. I'm going.
But what jersey are you wearing? That's the question.
I don't know yet. That's what I don't know what to do.
He traded 3 Pepsi Max cans and an empty granola wrapper for a ticket to that game because that's the only people who would go see the Lions play.
Since Stafford's been there, prices have gone up too, and that blew my mind.
How much was the ticket?
It's SoFi too, and nobody was able to go in person last year.
It's not personal. So here, I'll tell you.
50-yard line.
So everybody in my company was like crapping on me because they're like, "Why would we spend so much for tickets?" Right? But I don't go to a lot of NFL games. I go to college games. Last NFL game I went to was when I was a Cowboys fan. It was a preseason game, a long time ago.
What team has you not been a fan of?
The Lions.
A fair amount. That was not the point. Listen, and tickets were $220, and I'm like, I mean, plus Ticketmaster fees. They're resale tickets. I'm like, that's not a big deal. Like a couple $100 to go to an NFL game to me, like I would expect to pay that on a resale ticket. And like they were like, we better get 50-yard line seats for $300. I'm like, or $250, and I'm like, what are you talking about? Like the Super Bowl team, like I mean, you guys that go to NFL games, I mean, is that a lot of money? Is $250 a lot of money for a ticket?
No, not really. Well, there's SoFi
Depends on where you're
Stadium too,
sitting.
the brand new $1 billion stadium, so that didn't help. I found $65 tickets, but you're up in the top row, and I don't want to be in the top row. I want
And
to
you
be
have to
down
watch the Lions
by the field. and Stafford. I'm going to watch Stafford.
They should pay you for
Jersey will be all
that.
bloody because he got punched in the nose.
They're like, if you can stare at the field,
Right.
if you can stare at the field for 60 minutes, we will give you all the beer that you want. Please just look like you're having a good time and don't leave at halftime.
Ty brings up a good point, Anthony. I don't think I want you to wear a Lions jersey because I don't want you to get punched again. I need my producers.
Hey,
so
at least this time I'll hit back.
You don't punch
There
a
you go.
Lions fan. You're like really nice to them. You're like, "Can I show you to your seat, sir?" Like, this is not going to be fun for you. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, it's kind of like a Make-A-Wish fan. Like, you just want them to have a good experience.
I was at the Packers game where we finally beat the losing streak with them, and this guy threw his beer at me, and it was like
you're just a magnet for
I know.
violence.
It was still half full, and I'm like, okay, thanks. I chugged it right in front of him.
Half full.
What?
At least he's an optimist.
Yeah.
So.
You chugged a random stranger's half-full anger beer? What is
Yeah.
wrong with you?
I was
Tell
drunk.
me-
I mean, come on. I'm a Lions
Tell
fan.
me
He's gotta assert
post-COVID
his
you wouldn't do that at least,
dominance.
right?
Come on now.
He put his Peter
Right,
in that
exactly.
beer before
Dominance.
he threw it at you.
Oh no, I was out of my mind. I was so excited about the Lions finally beating them.
I guess.
Once again,
Dude,
this
I mean,
is,
wait, hang on. I know we're not going to talk. We're not there yet. But I just, I'm so happy for Matt Stafford. Like, the Rams have been this close for so long, you know, and they've just been a crap Jared Goff away from being a real team. And, like, finally we get to see that this year. I mean, the Bucks are still going to win the Super Bowl, but it'll be a good
Right.
year for the Rams.
So let's talk about a revenge game that involves the Bucks. If he's starting, Jameis Winston plays the Bucks in Week 8.
I just read your show notes. That's not a revenge game.
The show is towards the end. What do you mean you just read the show notes?
I mean, I just read Jameis versus the Bucks. That's not a revenge game, dude. Nobody even knows
they
he's
discarded him. Bruce Arians, they discarded Jameis rightfully.
He's
Obviously,
not even
but
going to be the starting quarterback.
that's the other side.
They're
You
going to
think-
line
you
up
think
their
Taysom
tight
Hill-
end at quarterback, just like every other team is lining up quarterbacks at tight end. Like the Saints are.
Taysom Hill's going in
the.
the opposite direction. Remember when he was a tight end in fantasy for that 1 week?
It was a
And
great week.
97% of people on FanDuel started him.
Yeah, and 2 people in our league did because our league is just ridiculous.
Yeah, I can't wait to start that back up. We're going to get some listeners involved. Yeah, maybe we'll get Ty if you want to do our Pigskin Party DFS league. We'll let you know when that comes up.
DFS is a world I don't know if I want to enter. I'm a little terrified of DFS.
It can be intimidating, that's for sure.
So as somebody who's like friends with all these like ex players, do you get to like go on the boat? like do you get to like participate in like the real life filming of Ballers? Like what is your or is it all via your computer?
Now
Tell me.
It's all via Zoom and BS. I mean, I hope we get back to normal and hang out in person. Like, usually these long form stories I want to hang out with these guys in their environment, right? Like, usually people are happy when they're eating, so we'll go out to dinner, do that kind of thing. God, what are some cool things we've done? I don't know, going guys' houses, just doing stuff they want to do. So, I hope we get back to that point because and I did go to Florida. You talked about Florida being wide open in March, and it's absolutely true. I went away for a week and did like 5-6 stories down there for the off season, and everything was open. And I think I had the mask here and there, but it was great talking to guys in person, hanging out in person. So we're not on boats like Ballers and Playmakers and doing all that kind of stuff. But I think I threw some beers back with some guys before. That helps loosen. Sammy Watkins when he's talking about all these demons and etheric bodies and entities in and out of his body for a story of Bleacher Report. I mean, we were at a restaurant in Orlando, and we were probably about 3-4 beers in a piece. We shut it down. They had to kick us out, I think.
Partying with Sammy Watkins.
It was fun.
Yeah. I mean, can you imagine though? Like, if you were gonna pick 3 NFL players of all time to go out and have a good time with, could you think like? I think you had the two of them are locks. Right, if you had to pick 3 NFL players to go out and have beers with, I think your first 2 are Chad Johnson and T.O. Like, just...
Are you going to tell your Ocho Cinco story for, like, the 4th time?
No, I'm not. I don't know who the third one would be. It'd be Marshawn. It'd be Marshawn, for sure. Chad Johnson,
Aaron Hernandez?
No, I don't want to die.
No, you wouldn't die.
He's also not alive anymore, but, not to mention he was a murderer. And
I definitely would be. It would definitely be. It would Ocho Cinco.
It would
T.O.,
lead to one heck
Marshawn
of a night.
Marshawn Lynch would be the third one, right? Beast Mode. Got to hang out with Beast Mode.
Yeah. Ty, who would be your 3? Who would be your 3 that you haven't hung out with that you would want to go hang out with, or the 3 that you've already hung out with?
I mean, Richie Incognito's up there. I think.
You had him. I wanted to be on that happy hour. I missed that.
It was if I can tease.
Wait, wasn't that the guy who got like hazed in Miami?
No, he's the guy who did the hazing.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
I thought he was the guy that like cried that he got hazed and he had to go somewhere else.
No, that was Jonathan
Martin.
Jonathan Martin.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I thought that was Incognito. Never mind.
Incognito did the hazing. Yeah, Ty, tease the happy hour.
So we had Incognito on, and it was outrageous. Usually these happy hours, I'm sharing them with the subscribers after the fact, and afterwards Richie's like, yeah, maybe we just let that one kind of stay in the ether. So if subscribers want it, like I'll email it to you. Just don't necessarily want to, going viral some of the things that he said, but
it's not on the YouTube.
No, exactly. But the night, if people remember, Jonathan Martin, was seeking revenge, I guess, and posted a picture on Instagram of his guns and added Richie Incognito.
I remember
I was
that.
actually with Richie Incognito when that happened. I was
Oh,
down
wow.
in Arizona working on a couple stories. I knew Richie from his Buffalo days. We got together. He knew a good sushi spot. So we order the food, and the pitcher lights up his phone, and he's looking around the restaurant like, I got to get out of here. And he leaves, and he told the story of what happened after he left on the happy hour. So I can't spoil it here, but it was incredible. It was unreal. Like we're talking police and FBI, and it was nuts. I mean, Richie's the first to say that he's not like a perfect person. He owns who he is and his flaws and his mistakes, and that he's kind of a son of a gun, and said things and did things that he regrets. But I've always liked him because he's authentic. He is what he is, and like we'll definitely make him a recurring guest, I should say, on the happy hour. So he'll be back. I mean, he's right up there. Andy Janovich. I don't know if you were on that one, Brian. The Browns.
I didn't. I wanted the Browns fullback. I saw it. There was a lot of clips from that. Yeah.
He was unreal. I mean, he was about 10 to 15 bush lights deep during chewing snuff, just BS and telling a story. He was awesome. So it's a lot of fun. Good guys just talking real, about their lives, about football, just on a Zoom with subscribers. It's not, going to be plastered onto a headline and they got to be worried about what they say. So that's the cool thing about it.
Yeah, like I said, it's worth it alone. So go longtd.com, sign up for the awesome writing, but stay for the freaking happy hours because, like what you just had, Jordan Love's QB coach. You just got some awesome guests. We had, so Jim Manos is your podcast partner. He came on the first night of the draft. We had the Zoom. We were watching the draft together, drinking, analyzing the picks. I think Manos predicted the Bears trade or the Cowboys trade. He predicted the Cowboys-Giants. Cannot plug that enough. And hey, if you want to hear Richie Cognito's story, the only way to do it is to subscribe. Reach out to Ty and see if he's feeling generous and send you that private happy hour. Yeah. I wanted.
Man. Oh, thank you.
Oh, of course, man.
Bakhtiari would be another one.
Definitely. Yeah. He'd be good.
Yeah.
He'd be good.
What about who's the center for Jensen? The center for Tampa Bay. He's some crazy
the
guy.
Ginger, the 300-pound Ginger. Yeah, he'd be a fun time.
I want to get Ben Cleveland on. That Baltimore lineman. You hear the stories this week. He just sounds like just America to the core. So he's something just guys who are themselves. We don't want to just be hearing cliches and BS. Let's just have some fun.
You know what I think they need to do, honestly, and they this would never happen, but like Hard Knocks is so good. It's just amazing. It still is. I don't care.
Depends on the team. I think it depends on the team.
I don't think it matters at all. I just watch it, right? I think they should follow teams throughout the year, too. And then
they do. It's called All or Nothing on Amazon.
But then in the off season, have shows similar to Hard Knocks about the up and downs of the year, all of the drama that's around the NFL. You know what I mean? And all that would just be, it'd be awesome. But really, follow the players and just kind of, if you want to be in the NFL, that's what you sign up for. That'd be kind of fun. I'd love that.
Maybe we should do that at Go Long, Maybe that's a feature that you get into. I like it.
There we go. You heard it here first. All right.
If we could just follow Tom Brady into his bedroom, that's all I'm saying.
Go ahead, play.
Film the magic.
I was going to say, play the goat. Now that Will knows the goat sound's going to play, he's just going to keep doing that and torturing me. All right, so if you tuned in for a deep analysis and breakdown of the NFL schedule, I apologize. That was not going to happen on this show.
You got something.
We got something. There's a one or two tidbits in there, some goat noises, and we're going to have beers with NFL players. But hey.
5-star reviews only.
5-star reviews only. Somehow we haven't got anything less than 5 yet. We are lucky. So we're going to go ahead and wrap up the main NFL episode. As I mentioned earlier, we are going to do a Rams deep dive. Cameron is going to be sticking around. Cameron Cavilee, co-host of the Absurditee Podcast. Ty Dunne has given us so much time and really, really appreciative of you coming on, man. We're going to have you again. As I said, go to golongtd.com. You can check out his podcast, Go Long with Dunne and Manos. Ty, anything else you want to say before we wrap it up?
You've kissed my ass enough, Brian. Thank you so much. No, appreciate everything you've done. The support's awesome. And, thanks to all your listeners for giving us a shot. You can, there's a free email list, so you can get some of the stories for free if you sign up for that. But when you subscribe, $7 a month, $70 a year. What's that? A cups of coffee per month.
It's such a good deal. You really should charge more, but
Well, got to feed the family, right? We got one little baby girl, one little baby boy on the way. That's my plea. So no, people have been awesome. They've been so supportive.
Good, and I'm really excited to see that grow. So make sure to stick around for the flavor of the week. You can find us on Twitter at officialpppod. We're on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. As always, please subscribe, tell your friends, and as Will said, only 5-star reviews. We're still batting 1,000. We're going to try to keep that going as long as we can. Thanks again for tuning in, and make sure to stick around for the flavor of the week.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Pigskin Party Podcast. If you're enjoying the show, please feel free to rate, subscribe, and leave a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. We really appreciate that effort. We'll catch you in the next Pigskin Party.